Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are thrilled to welcome a true veteran of the paranormal field, Tim from Spirit Hunters Paranormal 911 and Darkside Paranormal. Tim brings over 45 years of experience to the table, combining an academic background with a degree in paranormal psychology and deep on the ground experience. Not only did he spend a decade as the lead investigator for a government funded institute, but his unique path led him to be personally mentored by the legendary Ed and Lorraine Warren on the subject of demonology and non human spirits. So get ready because Tim is here to share his journey from old school EVP recordings to leading a new generation of investigators tonight on Unraveling the Darkness.
Good evening, Jason.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. Cruising through the week.
Cruising through the week. Yep.
Cruising through the week.
Not much been going on. I mean, we had a private this weekend, so we hung out and got some cool stuff, try some new stuff.
That ended up turning out really good.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best Estes sessions we've ever had.
For sure. Yeah, I'm super excited to keep trying some stuff up there.
Yep.
Might see me messing around trying to figure out what's going on.
Uh-oh.
So
New equipment troubles.
New equipment. Yep. So seems to be fine, but all right.
Even did a little road trip, down to Boulder and go pick up some equipment this past weekend. So
new equipment. Yep. So
stop by Buc-ee's.
Gotta love Buc-ee's.
Gotta love Buc-ee's.
Yeah. Get them cherry sours.
Mm-hmm.
Brisket sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy.
Honestly, I can't do their brisket. It's too sweet for me. The sauce they use.
Philly cheese burrito.
Yeah, that Texas Philly burrito is pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yep. So, well, I don't think we even have anything coming up anytime soon. I think the first thing WoW has is going to be next year.
Which we'll be putting something out for that in about the next week and a half. I think we'll start advertising for that, right?
Yep, some 101 for 13 and older, and see what we can get.
Yeah, be good. Get the kids up there to the nights and have them talk to V. And I don't know, like we've said before, they just come up with such cool questions to ask that stuff we never even think about,
Great to bring them in because they get like a new view to stuff that, we've been looking at, for a while. And some of the questions are pretty neat.
I think one of my favorites was when they asked, "What kind of shoes did you wear?" It's like, that's a really good question to ask, and if you get a response to it, that's going to be, may help date whatever's there, right? Like,
right. This weekend we did the card thing. We had talked to so many people that said that they added cards, like playing cards to their stuff, right?
Yep.
And we tried that this weekend and got a great blackjack session.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, playing blackjack on a pool table, with a yes no for hit or stay. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was great. Like getting some good responses, and so. All right, well, let's bring Tim in and try with him a bit.
Sounds good. Hey, Tim, how we doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. How you doing?
Not
Aaron
too bad.
Jason.
We're doing
Thanks
good.
for coming on tonight, man.
Well, been kind of a long day. Because I kind of still work part-time, even though I'm retired. at one of the hotels here close by, and I've been doing all the decorating of the building here this week.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
And you're what? You're an hour ahead of us, right? Where you are in Texas?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
so getting ready for Christmas. So what's going on?
Well, pretty much getting the hotel ready.
Right.
You know, don't have much, you know, Christmas to get ready for any of the family. You know, I got a lot of grandkids, which usually makes me go broke every year. But other than that, it's just another day of the year to me.
Yeah, we got a second one this year. So yeah, I'm sure she's been spending some money. So well, let's get into it, Tim. What got you started in the paranormal field?
Well, it dates way back in my time. Pretty much, when I was young, probably about 5 or 6, some things started happening where, I was, hearing sounds, noises, voices when nobody was there. And of course, like as a child, you always go to your parents and tell them, what you're hearing or what you're seeing. And of course, they tell you, you're just imagining it or you're dreaming it, there's no such thing. And after a while, I just, every time something happened, I didn't mention it. I just pretty much hid under the blankets or certain areas I wouldn't even go into. But, as I grew up, more and more started happening. And it got to the point that I wasn't so much scared anymore, but I was more on the lines of, what is going on? Just I didn't understand. And, it just kind of progressed from there, with a lot of different things happening. And then, you know, uh, going through my high school years, me and a bunch of the guys, we go like cemeteries and out in the woods and different places. And, I was just hearing voices all the time. And it almost made me feel kind of like I was going insane in a way. Um,
I'm sure.
if
Yeah.
you kind of picture like going to a restaurant and you just got a bunch of people at different tables and they're all talking, I'm picking up on all this conversation, but I'm hearing spirits talking, not the living, and
Right.
it just almost made me feel like I was going crazy, but that kind of worked out in the long run later on down the line. But after graduation and got my curiosity up. I just trying to figure out what's going on. So I started checking in, doing a little bit of research, and I started to find out there was a lot of research on paranormal out there that I had no idea. So I started learning everything I could, through reading or just talking to other people that have had things going on. Um, I decided, well, I wanted to, checking into colleges, find out there's any courses in paranormal. I hadn't gotten into the demonology, at that time it was all paranormal. And I found out that I could take a course in paranormal psychology, you know, which kind of helped me out. I went to Edinburgh, Germany for 2 years studying in that. And, that kind of helped me as to where everything happened. You just don't automatically say, well, that's paranormal. They
Mhm.
teach us to, basically debunk it, look at other outside the box, other things that possibly could cause these different things. So, that kind of helped me in the field of, not jumping to conclusions. Even though I see a lot of people, they have a cat ball go off or K2 automatically. They think, oh, we're connecting with the spirits. And I kind of shake my head, and just, I guess if that's what you want to believe, I got to have a little bit more confirmation or more, evidence coming in before I can say, yeah, that's what it is. But you know, after I got back from over Germany, I started finding out, doing some research on, people that did paranormal investigations, and I was able to get a hold of a few of those and see if possibly I could join them on some of their investigations, not necessarily to investigate, but more to observe, what
Mm.
they do, how they do it, kind of get some on hand experience in it that way. And I did that for probably about 3 years, which I learned a lot of knowledge, different, aspects of the paranormal. And then I was hit up by a person in Virginia that, it mentioned to me about a government funded project of a paranormal research institute that they had over there. So I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll get on with that and learn some more. When I got a hold of the person that was in charge, I think his name was Bill. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But, I pretty much, had to go through the process of like an application and orientation, where they kind of talk with you about, what or your experience in the field. And I was kind of telling them, and you say, oh, yeah, we definitely want you. So I joined on with them, moved to Virginia, and I was there for about 8 years, 7, 8 years. And within the first 6 months, with the knowledge that I knew, and you know, not that I had a whole lot of experience in the field, but the knowledge, and they kind of asked me if I wanted to be like the lead investigator to basically, you know, I guess in a way supervise over 4 other teams. And I thought, well, I can give it a shot. So I did that, and that worked out pretty good. But then the government, I guess, either they thought it was a waste of money because they shut it down. Either that, after it all closed, I got to think, well, maybe they got what they wanted, and that was all. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
So
What
what
was the
kind of
basis for
projects
it?
were you focusing on?
well, they had it set up where they were getting, calls from different places that said they had some kind of activity going on, and they would send teams, pay for the teams to go to these different locations over the U.S. To do a little bit of research, a little bit of investigating, to see if it was something paranormal or just, something that people were just kind of imagining. But some of it, was legit. We were able to, document and capture, some evidence, you know. But you can say in the paranormal field, there's just so much out there that, we still don't understand or know everything about it. But we are learning each day.
Yep.
And technology has come a long ways. It's helped us out in the field. But I find it even today when I go do something, I have people say, well, I've been into it for 40 years and I know everything there is. I got to shake my head and say, well, if you think you know it all, because even today, I go out in places because I do a lot of cemeteries doing research. And, I connect with a lot of the same spirits, but something new will happen. I go, well, I haven't had this one. This is new. So, just something else we learn.
Yeah, we're still just at the very tip of the iceberg as far as, paranormal research goes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll ever know the total because it just keeps
No.
changing it all the time, you know. And I've always had people say, well, your videos, we see the same stuff over and over. We see the K2 go off of the REM pod, you know, and why you keep going back to the same places? I tell them, because it's not the same every time we go. Yes,
No.
we have the same devices go off, but I'm connecting with different spirits because I am a clairvoyant where I can see and I can hear and communicate with the spirits. Very seldom do I communicate with the same spirit, in my career of doing this. I guess you could call it a career, of being in the paranormal. It's always, new spirits, different things.
Yep.
Some of them are pretty much similar on what they do, but it's always different.
Right. Do you
But
find you like investigating cemeteries more than buildings?
no, not necessarily. I like to do a wide variety because for 35 years, after the institute shut down, I went and did some more research, learning more on witchcraft, pagan rituals, voodoo, trying to get a wider field, you know, people that I know that would do seances or Ouija boards. I wanted to know all the ins and outs, to learn all of it. And, you know, but, for about 30, 35 years, I was traveling all over the U.S., people that would contact me, saying they were having things happening in their home or business. And, I would travel, these places and check to see if they did have anything in there. And I was finding the majority of the activity that people were having, it was usually a loved one, someone had passed away. Basically, we figured that was probably someone they felt like they had unfinished business and they just didn't want to cross over. They
Mm.
felt like they still needed to watch over, take care of the family, you know. But
Right.
occasionally I would come across, something where someone would buy a new home, or not a new home, but a home that someone else had lived in that they passed away, and that spirit was still there. And they were saying, yeah, they were having knocks and things knocked off the shelf and cabinet doors slamming. And of course, when stuff like that happens, the people that just have no idea any knowledge or anything about the paranormal field, the first thing that comes to their mind is something evil, something
Yep,
demonic.
always.
Right.
And, that's not necessarily true. I'm finding that a lot of it, whoever lived in that home before, a new person comes in, maybe they didn't like the way the new person was taking care of their home. So, they were just kind of making their presence known, letting them know that.
Right. So in your travels, is that when you met the Warrens and got to spend time with them?
Well, no, actually, a friend of mine uh, actually knew the Warrens, and he contacted me because he knew that I wanted to get into demonology, and he said, "Well, uh, I can set you up where you can go meet Ed and Lorraine Warren." And I thought, "Yeah, whatever," you know, and you know, I said, "Yeah, that would be nice, but I kind of doubt that's going to happen." Well, he contacted me about 2 weeks after that, and he said, "All right, what are you doing on such and such a date?" I said, "Well." Looked at my calendar. I said, "Well, I'm kind of open up during that day." He said, "All right, I'm going to get your plane reservation made." I said, "Where am I going?" He said, "You're going to meet Ed and Lorraine Warren." And I thought, "Oh, this has got to be some kind of joke, you know." And he said, "Well, you're going to have a reservation for that date." So I got to thinking after I hung up with him, I thought, man, if I go to the airport and there's no such reservation, I am going to hurt this person. But I got thinking, well, all right. Uh, I just waited a couple of days and I thought, well, before I go to the airport, I'm going to call the airport and
Call
see
and
if
make sure it's real.
yeah, it's real. And I
Right.
called and I actually had a reservation going to Connecticut. And I thought, is this dude serious? And I got up there and I had somebody meet me at the airport to give me a ride over there in the rain. Warren's place, and I met them at the door. I actually met Ed at the door, and he welcomed me in. We talked a little bit, and then the rain came in, and she was kind of standing there, said hello and all that. And when Ed kind of said, "Give me a minute, I gotta go take care of something," so the rain kind of walked up. She stood right in front of me, and she said, "You see things and hear things, don't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah." She says, "You got the gift, the ability." And at the time, I never knew what clairvoyant. I never heard of clairvoyant, empath, a medium. Never heard of any of that. And I said, "Okay, what is that?" She says, "That's a gift that you have, that you're able to see, hear, and talk with spirits." And she said, "Man, you're kind of new at it, and you're going to learn a lot more. A lot more is going to happen over the years." So she kind of helped me because I told her, I said, "Well, I thought I was going crazy, just like being in a public place and hearing all these conversations, picking up a piece of this conversation, a piece of that conversation." And I got, well, that doesn't make any sense, because just different parts. And she's kind of helped me out on being able to control that, where it was almost like I was hearing it, but it was like I would use key words that would actually get my attention to focus on. So that helped me out a lot. And then Ed, of course, he couldn't go over any of the cases because that's all confidential, just like all my cases. I can't, publicize any of that or anything because it's all client confidentiality. But, he kind of helped me understand more about the demonic, the different things that they, will do, the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts. And, kind of got me, you know, uh, kind of got me in that mindset field of how to deal with something like that. I spent like 4 days with them. I only figured on being there a few hours, but they invited me to stay for about 4 days, where
Wow.
they could kind of help me out, which I thought was awesome. Of course, every day I would call my friend 2 or 3 times and say, thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, for arranging this because I thought this was a joke. But yeah, I mean, they helped me out. And then, of course, Ed, you know, his vault, which he calls it the crypt, that he has like 6 locks on the door going in the vault where he has all the different haunted items that they've collected over the years. And he said, well, just from talking with you and the knowledge you have and what you've been doing, he says, would you like to go in and see some of the haunted items? I thought, sure, why not?
Absolutely.
But he told me, he
Mhm.
said, but before we go in, he says, I got a few different rules. You do not touch anything. There's certain things that um, because they talk about the Annabelle doll that you just don't go up there and just stand there and stare at it because even though she's behind a locked case, uh, there's something there that she is still able to, um, manipulate you in a way. And he said that, any type of feelings you get, you feel dizzy, you feel sick, nauseous, whatever, he says you need to let me know because we may have to come back out of there. But as soon as he opened up that door, I just felt such an energy charge from that room that I knew there was a lot of energy in there. But that was pretty cool getting to go in there.
I
So were you
bet.
able to hear anything when you were in there, or was it all just kind of
Um,
feeling that
no,
built
I
up energy?
mean, yeah, I was picking up on different energies that were in there, different spirits. Um, you know, um, there would be I'd be looking at one thing and something would just, just like get my attention to a different area because I would turn around. Look, he says, "What are you picking up on?" And of course, I tell him, well, I'm picking up on like a male over here around this area, and kind of focus on it. I think it's coming from um, that little. It was like a almost looked like kind of one of those little tiki dolls or whatever you get from Hawaii
Mm.
that was over there on the shelf. I said, I think it's coming from that. He said, really? He said, you're able to pick up on that. And I said, well, that's what I'm feeling is coming from there, and it's a male. And he said, then he started telling me a little bit about it, and kind of made sense. But like I said, now when I do stuff, I'm able to pick up on stuff because I've gone to like different haunted locations over the past 3 years. I mean, I went to a lot of them back when I was first getting into the paranormal. A lot of haunted locations, Waverly Hills, Penhurst, Brushy Mountain State Prison, Yorktown Hospital. All these kind of places. Not necessarily to film or document, but I just wanted to go in and see what I was able to pick up on. But that all progressed over the years to where I can go to places now, and I mean, at Bolton Street, 1899 Bolton Street House here in Texas,
Mm.
which is an awesome place. I went in there. They got a lot of haunted items in there, but they only know the name that's attached to one of the items. And I've been going there pretty often. and I was able to connect with another spirit and find out the name and everything. And since I've done that, every time I go there, the two little girl spirits, they connect with me. I pick up on other spirits, but I was able to get the name of this new spirit that was attached to another one of the dolls in there. And since I let the owner, the property know that, they've been getting a lot of interaction with that one.
Well,
You know, so,
So going back a little bit to your time with the Warrens, you said, they took you in for 4 days and, kind of gave you an intro to demonology. And so I guess with everything you've learned from them and then, the other research you've done in demonology, what would be one piece of advice you could give someone if they think they're encountering that?
um, well, if you come across something that's demonic, I mean that's usually going to be. I can't say it's always that way, but it's usually something that is trying to control you, something that that can hurt you real bad. If you have no knowledge of what you're doing, you need to back out of that situation because that's a field that you try to encounter or take on. If you don't know what you're doing, things can go very, very wrong. I mean, my first case after connecting with the Warrens, he also took me to one of the Catholic churches that he did a lot of cases for. That's where I spent about 6 hours talking with the priest there that helped me out. And he said, "Well, I think you're ready to go do your first case." And I thought, I don't think so, but I tried to find one that was not real bad, but there was something happening, which the Catholic Church kind of helped me set up that investigation. And I went in with the knowledge of what they taught me, the do's and don'ts. He said, they're going to try to get the best of you. Don't back down. Stand your ground. There might be times that you might have to back out of it a minute, kind of regroup and come back in. He said, don't run from it because all you're doing is, you're feeding that energy. Can't show that fear. Um, so, I went in and did it. Was able to, figure out what I was dealing with, which a lot of times with, being a clairvoyant, I'm able to pick up on different energies, whether it's a positive energy or a negative energy. So as I went in, I felt that negative energy. Um, it was just trying to locate where that energy was, try to find out a little bit more, information about what I'm dealing with, uh, find out, how much energy it does have so I know how I need to proceed in fighting that case. And but after I got through it and was able to basically make it use up its energy trying to go battle with me, it just got to where it was weak, where I could basically cleanse and banish it from that home. And after it was all done, I mean, I felt a difference in the atmosphere. It went more to a positive energy, just like it was just like clean, nothing was there. And after I got done, walked out of that house, first thought came to my mind, what the heck am I thinking, about getting into that? And of course, I went back and told Ed about it and talked to Father, I think it was Father Mike, I believe. And he kind of grinned and looked at me. He says, "You're ready for it." I haven't had very many demonic cases, but I've done probably about maybe 15, 20 over the past 2 years, and the majority of those have been up in Indiana because that's a lot of bad things up there. But I'm finding a lot of those demonic cases with, they kind of come from where someone is either playing the Ouija board or doing seances, didn't close the board right, didn't close the table right, and they allowed something to come through.
that's pretty cool. I want to talk about the difference in equipment from when you started to now. Do you notice a difference with EVPs as far as like with tape recording compared to digital recorders?
Well, I mean, middle school, I mean, we didn't have all that technology. We didn't have those devices. All I had for any type of EVP was the old cassette recorder.
Right.
And, we didn't have K2 meters, REM pods, or anything like that. You used a compass because that
Yep.
still picks up on that fluctuation of magnetic energy, which we believe spirits are, that's their energy that they put out. And then, of course, a lot of trigger objects, balls, flashlights, just anything, dolls, get them to move and knock it over. That's what we had to go through. But with the difference between using a cassette and using a digital recorder or using a recorder off your phone, um, I would say they're somewhat pretty much similar. But I know they had that one Japanese made recorder that I think what a DR60 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a real high price, but people want to pay that kind of money. I think you can still get the same results out of any digital recorder. I don't say buy the higher dollar one or buy the cheapest one. A lot of equipment I'll go kind of mid range. And I mean, I even use the recorder off my phone. I can be on the second floor, and I can still pick up people downstairs. I can hear stuff going on from outside. It'll pick it all up.
Right.
So,
I was wondering if there was a difference between like magnetic tape, with tape
Yep.
recorders, if maybe that helped
no, I
bring
mean, I've
spirits,
got, I've got,
or
I've got just
maybe,
as good EVPs off the cassette recorder back in those days as I do off of a lot of electronical stuff they have nowadays.
okay.
And I still see some people when I did one video where I said, all right, I'm going old school. Probably none of you are going to have any idea what I'm doing here. And I noticed after I did that, I happened to come across a couple groups on YouTube that actually tried using that stuff. Twin Paranormal, they tried using a
Mhm.
cassette recorder.
Uh,
CJ Faison, he used one. And even Josh Rocky and Sean of uh, uh, Paranormal Nightmare. I've talked with them a few times, and he actually contacted me one time because they had a demonic case they worked across, and he needed a little bit of input on. But yeah, they've tried it, and they were kind of amazed at some of the stuff. They said, "Well, we don't need all this technology. We can get just as much, probably better documented proof by trigger objects than you can from some of the devices because your
Yeah.
K2s, your REM pods, there are so many things that will make them activate as to
Right.
where a flashlight or a ball moving, a doll getting knocked off, that's more verifiable proof that there is something there doing that. Not saying it's, spirit related. It could be just, you know, something else, it may be
right.
alien for all I know. That's why I'm doing a little bit of
Yep.
research down that line.
Right.
Maybe they're doing some of this stuff because I think it was Nick Roth one time. He did a video, and what came through on the camera, he heard a bang, but where he was standing, he saw like an arm come in, but it only had like three fingers. I mean, they were kind of long, transparent, and went right back out. To me, I
Hmm.
thought, well, that's not human. That would look more to me like an alien type hand that came
Right.
through, which was kind of, got my mind going and said, well, I'm wondering if all this stuff that we're dealing with is actually human spirit related. Maybe some of the activity we're getting, maybe it's something different. Maybe it's alien for all we know.
Well, and we've had a few guests on where, we talked that interdimensional stuff where, aliens and cryptids and spirits all together.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's just so much out there that happens, and it's just trying to classify or verify what we're actually dealing with.
Yeah.
So going back to your time at the Paranormal Institute, looking at, evidence collection, what would you consider successful evidence collection for a case that was, funded and, being researched by an institute?
Um, I mean, they had some of the high dollar type devices, equipment that we used back then. Of course, there's a lot better stuff nowadays that they've come out with that, a lot of the different things, power source or, a walkie talkie does not set those kind of things off. But back then, we had, still using a lot of devices that I still use today. But basically, doing that paranormal psychology, we try to debunk everything. Say if something moved, is there any type of vent, window open, door, any type of airflow, something activating. We have to check around and see if there's anything else right there that's actually activating it, or whether it's something, kind of a phenomenon, something we don't know. We can't say what it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're trying to, you know, um, get as much evidence, that we can, trying to verify by not necessarily happening one time, but get them to, for instance, that nowadays I say, they set a K2 mirror off. I have other objects right there around it. You say, all right, well, if this is you and you just set that K2 mirror off, maybe you can go over here and make this little cat ball down here activate. Or go over here and touch that REM pod. If I can get it, where I'm asking them to do something else and it happens, all right, gives me a little bit, more confirmation that yes,
Yep.
possibly we are connecting with something. But I still won't go off one or two times. All right, you set that off just to verify that this is you and you do understand what I'm saying and you activate it. Please do it one more time for me. If I can
Yep.
get it to go off again, basically on request, because I don't demand them to do anything.
Right.
We request,
Yep.
we're inviting them to
Right.
make their presence known,
Yep.
and, that gives me a little bit more verification. So, I mean, that's the way back in the old days, excuse me, um, tried to go that route. And I still do that today. I see a lot of people do a little different. I said, well, I mean, there's no right way or wrong way of paranormal
Right.
investigating, but I just got to have more confirmation, more things
Yep.
happen to make me more inclined to believe that, yes, you are, connecting with something.
Yep. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one thing we always do is we always try to caveat it when we're asking for, actions to be performed that, hey, we're not asking you to do tricks. We're here to learn about you, learn what you can do, and find different ways, that may be easier for you to talk to us. So always try to, bring that respect back to them because, you're talking to somebody, right? Like just trying to figure out a different way to have a conversation.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I find, where you see a lot of them, they want to go in there and agitate, provoke, and everything. Yeah, I mean, I hate that. That's just,
Yep. Same here.
you know,
Yep.
I go in there. This is their home. I'm coming there to visit. Just hey, if you like to make your presence known or you like to communicate with me, hey, I got some devices here. Set one of them off. That way, I know you're here. We can communicate. I got different ways. You may not be able to use this device to communicate. We'll try something else. I got several different ways, different devices that we can use. If we need to go old school where you can move an object, we'll go that route. I try to give them an option of you know, basically wanting to tell their story or make their presence known to
Mhm.
let people know that yes, I am still here, even though I'm on the other side. You know,
Yep.
So, Tim, all these places that you've been to over the years, which one's been your favorite?
I kind of like Waverly Hills because that's one big sanatorium up there.
Hmm.
Um, I've been there, phew, probably four times over the past 20 years, maybe a little bit longer. First time, like I said, when I went there, I wasn't into recording or videoing or anything like that. I was just there to, I guess, help my ability, make it stronger, being able to,
Mhm.
amplify it, see what I could pick up on, voices I could hear, sounds I could hear, the different types of feelings. Um, but I noticed that when, I was all right, well, I had some activity happen, but maybe that next year, I want to go back and see if any of that's changed, it's increased, died off, or whatever. So that's why I keep going back to a lot of these different places to see if anything's changed on it. But I mean, that's one of the places I like. Penhurst was another one. Um, let's see, Old South, Old South Park Hospital in Pennsylvania. I think that's where it was. Uh, I find hospitals, prisons, sanatoriums, they seem to be real active. I like
Yeah.
those kind of places. And, then I've done a lot of cemeteries. Now, of course, I had people say, no, there won't be no spirits in cemeteries. But like to go to different places, do research, because I believe probably 75%, give or take, of every place in the world has some kind of spirit energy there. Maybe they're not doing anything, don't want to make their presence known, but I have gone to places that people don't have any activity, never witnessed any activity I've gone into, and I could pick up on it. I don't know if spirits are able to sense or know that I am able to hear them and see them or connect with them, and that's why I'm able to pick up on them. And I got to think, well, do I want to tell these people they have a spirit here? Just kind of leave it at that. So I usually don't. But I believe they're just about everywhere you go, even out in the woods. That's why I'm doing a lot of going out and state forests and parks and stuff like that where there's trails, and I'm finding I'm picking up on activity out there. So,
Yeah, we've gone out between Cheyenne and Laramie to a spot. We're not sure if that's a spot where someone was hit by lightning on their horse, or maybe a settler as they traveled the plains passed away. But yeah, out there in the middle of nowhere,
yeah,
Prairie of Wyoming, we're getting hits on
yeah,
K2 or RAM, and there is nothing. There's
Nothing
They're in
for
the
like
middle
30
of
miles.
yeah.
Yeah.
nowhere.
I,
Yeah,
I, I, yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, running a EVP out there. A lot of times you can pick up on EVP.
yeah.
But I know a lot of places where they've been battles like Gettysburg, um, Indian wars, massacres, stuff like that. Um, that's usually a good place for activity. But it doesn't necessarily, to me, it doesn't have to be someone that had died in that area. I, I'm starting to find out that some of the communication I'm getting is somebody that's not even from that area, but that was one of their favorite spots to come and visit. So their spirit kind of comes back to those favorite spots like hotels and things. They didn't die there, but they still come to that place. They're not there all the time. They just kind of come and go. You know, I don't, for where we don't call them resident spirits like the ones that stay in these locations,
Mm.
but these are ones that kind of come or go to different locations. But I'm finding that in a lot of places. But I mean, I can tell you a funny story. One time, uh, off of some of the uh, videos I put out, I had one guy just negative, non-believer and everything, and he was always criticizing my videos. Telling me, "Oh, this is a bunch of bull. Y'all are making this up, faking it." And I said, "Well, what I do, I'm not trying to convince you that this is real or not. That's up to you. What you want to believe.
Yep.
I'm just showing what I'm able to capture. Things that are happening. What you want to believe, if it's real or not, that's your choice." And he kept on. I said, "Well, maybe you need to go with someone to on a paranormal investigation to see this firsthand." So he said, "All right, I'm going to go with you. And I'm going to prove that you all just bull." And so I got thinking, all right. I got to think. Well, I got one favorite cemetery I go to that every time I pull up, get out of my car, I hear my name called, or they say, "Hey, Tim's back." I'm going to take him here because I can communicate with about three of the spirits there. So we took him to that place, me and one of my team members. And of course, I do my little intros. I go into places, let them know who I am. I'm here to visit. I'm here to disrespect, vandalize, or take things or anything. I'm just giving you the opportunity to make your presence known, to let people know that you still are around. So I went in there, and after I did that, I said, and then I got a friend with me. He thinks you all are just a bunch of bull. You don't exist. I said, maybe you can do me a favor and go over there and just touch him on his arm or on his
Show them
shoulder.
what you got.
Yeah,
Yep.
let him know. And it wasn't even a minute. I mean, he jumped and turned around behind, turned around, looked at me, off to the car he went. And after he pulled out, I mean, I got a big old grin on my face. And after he left, my team member, he said, "You knew that was going to happen." I said, "Yep," because the one spirit right here was communicating with me. I knew it was there, and I knew that was going to happen. He contacted me the next morning. He said, "All right, maybe this is real." I said, "Like I said, I'm not trying to convince you it's real or not."
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah, it's we host some events, and we did a skeptic night. We only had one skeptic, but by the end of the night, he's like, I don't know how some of this stuff happened, but
I
yeah,
got
I'm
some
thinking
thinking to
about this
do.
stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you start going doing this type, get into this type of field, doing investigations. I mean, when I first started out, I go to a place and I just spend hours, nothing happened. I thought, oh, maybe this is not real. It's just everybody just talking that stories, making everybody want to
Yep.
believe it. But I find out you got to have patience, you got to stick with it. Eventually something's going to happen. And I said, I
Yep. Go in
guarantee
with
you,
good intentions.
yeah,
Yep.
I said, I guarantee you, once something does happen that you witness, you're going to be hooked. You're going to
Yep.
want
And
more.
it's going to stick with you. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoy it. Of course, I'm getting up there in age where I don't do a whole lot of traveling anymore, a lot of cases. I come up with a way to where I can do cases via online, which I tested out probably about 6 months with different people around the U.S. with their help. They'd have to help me on their side where I could do it via online.
Right.
Where
Right.
I have to get, some of the basic old school, trigger objects, a ball, a toy that, battery operated, the lights will flash or start making sounds or whatever, dolls, anything, flashlight. And I said, there are a few apps that you can download onto your phone that actually do work in the paranormal field. Get that. That way, I can have you set it up in certain areas where I can monitor it. As we're doing it. Prefer you have like a laptop or something where it can be a bigger screen where I can see a bigger area rather than a phone. And we tested to see, what I guess how accurate it is or whether it's something that could be done. And I would say probably 95%. Um, I felt that it actually worked, being
So
able to
you're
do
having
that.
them set up these trigger objects and then you're
Yeah,
doing it over like Google Meet or Zoom, something like that. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, I'll, do basically just an interview with them first to find out what all they've experienced, what's happening, kind of give me a tour around the house with their phone where they can kind of pan the rooms as we go through, tell me what areas, they're having things happening. And I have gone to where they've gone into rooms as they're scanning. I said, whoa, 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 back up. And I'll, just something about one object that, just draw it out to me and all what, and I'll talk about that. Where'd that object come from? Was it something
Hmm.
you went out and bought or whatever? And find out that some of it hand me down. I found out, some of the items were bought at a flea market or an antique store. And I said, well, you got something attached to it right there. So this is going to be one area we'll concentrate on where I'll have you set devices up, but we'll, go through and, whatever I pick up or feel, that's the areas I'll concentrate to do, basic investigation. But if I pick up on something that is more of a darker energy, uh, I won't do it online because, that's something I need to be there because whatever happens, you don't have time to think about it. You have to react, especially if it's a demonic presence. And I
Yeah, that'd
won't
be a
put,
crappy time to lose
yeah,
internet service, wouldn't it?
yeah,
You're halfway
well,
through
yeah, well,
doing something like
don't
that,
want
and then
to, yeah, but you don't want to put, anybody else in that danger, you
right,
Right.
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll say, y'all go to a hotel, motel, wherever you want to go, stay with a friend. I like to have the house to myself for a little bit because this is going to be a battle. I mean, I've been pushed, I've been scratched, I've been bit, I've had stuff thrown at me, So, I'm taking my little bruises and scratches and cuts, throughout, some of those cases. But, I said, all right, well, you got me on that one, but I'm still not running. We're not done.
Did you ever do
Uh,
any like video documentation for those types of cases?
Um, yeah, but it's still, that's something that's client confidential because they don't want people to know, oh, this is what we got on our house.
Yep.
Right.
I did have one that the client, she okayed for me to post, but the two other people, the priest, because I had to bring in a priest to it, and another person to help me on basically an exorcism. To detach the demonic presence was attached to a girl, and this girl was about 5'2", maybe weighing 110, 120 pounds. Myself, I'm close to 180. My friend, he's real stocky, heavy set. He's probably 250, or so. And he had a hold of her, and she was still tossing him around. And I grabbed a hold of her
Wow.
feet, and between him and me, we had a hard time holding this one down. But this demon had so much energy. It was a Zaya, which is one of the demonic minions, I want to call them, that had been attached to her for about 3 years. So it had time to gain a lot of energy.
Wow.
And,
Yeah.
it ruined her marriage, um, ruined her, basically her life, job wise, and everything. She was hateful to people, um, you know, but we had to do 3 sessions, wear it down. And once got it wore down, I told my friend, I said, time to get rid of it. And I said, but we're not doing it here. So we took it back to the Catholic Church where the priest, because he couldn't get involved because he has to have a lot of documented evidence to be able to go through the diocese to get approval to be
Right.
involved in it. But he was there basically as an overseer, a witness, to what was going on. Which after what we did, he has called me on other cases, to come in to help them figure out what they're dealing with. But yeah, I mean, that's something, people that want to get into it, you better get with someone that has knowledge to be able to train you right. Because if not, things are going to go bad. You don't have time to think about
Yep.
Yeah. That's a whole nother section of, what we do as investigators, right? Like
it.
even
Yeah,
investigating, that's a little different than just going in to
yeah. I
Waverly
mean,
or Brushy or wherever.
yeah, I mean, dealing with human spirits, of course, some of those are cranky. They will throw stuff
Yep.
at you or scratch you, you know. But it's a whole different ball game when you're dealing with something that's demonic, something that's not of this world, you
Yeah.
know, because they're gonna trick you. They're gonna pose themselves as a child, and I don't know of any human that hears a child cry or whatever. Don't even know this child. You're gonna pay attention or come say, hey,
Right.
where's your mom or where's your dad? Are you all right? Did you fall over? You know, and
Yep.
a lot of people get hooked into paranormal. Um, investigating, think they're dealing with a child, I tell them be very cautious when you're dealing with something that, especially if you don't have any ability where you're able to pick up on a different type of energy. You think you're dealing with a child, call them out on it. Say, are you really a child, or are you something posing as a child? Because I find if you call a demonic presence out, they're either going to stop, or they're going to tell you that there's something else. You know, so I mean, there's little
Mhm.
tricks of the trade that people can make their investigating a lot better. I mean, I have people contact me all the time, wanting advice, or you know, different ideas or different things they could use to investigate. And I try to share my knowledge with everybody. My videos are not for, like a lot of YouTubers, they say paranormal investigating. I call them just investigating into the paranormal.
Yeah.
They're not
Yep.
true paranormal investigators. Paranormal investigators are ones that are doing research, trying to educate people in the paranormal, being able to document, learn more from it. And a lot of my YouTube videos are more educational. You know, um,
And
everybody
that's
says,
at
"Well,
on your YouTube, Dark Side Paranormal,
yeah,
correct?
dark side paranormal," which I didn't even know they had a YouTube channel for that until about 3 years ago. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try this out, and I put my first video on there, and then I watched back over it. I thought, man, you look like an amateur. Like you have no idea what you're doing. But it's gotten better. But like I said, it was more training videos, kind of teaching people how to do paranormal investigating. Some do's and don'ts. A lot of devices. I'll kind of show them what device is, what we use them for, what they do. You know, just different type stuff to help people more understand about the paranormal. That way when things happen, they won't just automatically think it's something demonic.
Right.
Right.
It gives them a little bit of insight to where I tell people use your sixth sense, because it's just almost as good as having, the ability,
Yep.
you know,
Always
just trust
trust
your
your gut.
gut. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
Well, Tim, we're at our time. It's been great having you on. You seem to be a wealth of knowledge, and we may reach out to you at some point, when we're doing an investigation, if we have something going on that we don't know about.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd love to join you all on an investigation sometime if you'd have me. And
Absolutely.
if you ever run into a spot where you'd like to have me back as a guest to talk about some more things, I got a head full of knowledge. I have people I go to do investigations, got new people that come, or new investigators that they'll just rack my brain. I'll spend more time feeding them or giving them knowledge than I do get to go investigate, but
Yeah.
hey, I'm just passing that wisdom down to help them better to continue paranormal investigating after I'm gone. It just helps them out. So, yeah,
So,
I would love to come back and be another guest. Anytime you
well,
need. Um, Maybe I'll have a little bit more stories to tell about some of the wooded adventures I'm fixing to go on.
yeah, I hope that works out for you. We'll send everyone over to the Dark Side Paranormal over on YouTube, and Spirit Hunter Paranormal 911 on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean, they can Google and find me. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. Of course, I don't do a whole lot of uh, communicating back and forth on Instagram or TikTok, but I do most on Facebook. I got a group session on there, Spirit Hunters Paranormal 911, where people post videos, or they contact me through that way, ask questions, or looking for advice or help or guidance or whatever. So yeah, definitely.
great.
No, that's
Well,
really
thanks for coming on
respectable, and that's
tonight.
great you're doing that. But yeah, we'll definitely have you on the short list for, coming back on. And yeah, I want to hear about your mountain and, national forest adventures, because that's the kind of stuff I love doing, is going out and exploring. So
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a lot of state forest and parks here in Texas. Then gonna go Oklahoma, go up to the Ozarks, eventually hoping to get to go over there to Washington, up there around
Nice.
Mount St. Helens. I want
Yep.
to go see what Bigfoot's all about. See if any of that documented evidence is real, or you know,
Yep.
see what's
And
going
then
on.
my big one is I want to get out to Mount Shasta.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
That's our friends over here, Paranormal Triage,
Yep.
watching. You got to help Jason out with that.
Yep.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, anytime you got any questions or want some input or advice, I'll be more than glad to, communicate with you, see if we can't come up with logical explanations, the way I look at it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir. And we're going to throw you into the green room and we'll come and chat with you as soon as we're done.
Okay, enjoyed talking with both of you, being a
Likewise.
guest.
Thank you,
So
sir.
Thanks.
thank you for having me.
Are you going to say it or am I going to say it? Because I say it
You're
every
going to
week.
say it. You say it every week. Don't break tradition, man.
It's another great guest.
It really is.
We reach out and we post on the page looking for guests, and we'll put them on some other pages. And we did that recently and got quite the calendar filled up.
Yeah.
And pretty excited to talk with quite a few of those people. We did have a cancellation, so we do have next week open. Paranormal Triage, if you're over there and you know someone that you would like us to talk to, we'll hit them up and see if we can get them next week. We'd love to fill in Wednesday. So shoot us a message if you know someone that we should bring on.
Yep.
Turkey Day next week. We're still having a show on Wednesday since that's Thursday. And that's all I know.
Yeah, no, it was awesome having Tim on, someone that's been doing this for, 45 years. And, it was cool to be able to talk to him about, the changes in equipment, right? And how, the equipment's changing, but, the results are kind of, the same. So,
yep. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching tonight, and we will see you next week.
all right. See y'all next week. Thanks, everyone. Unraveling the Darkness would like to thank Horn Paranormal Research for sponsoring our show. If you're craving more paranormal content, don't forget to check out our YouTube and Facebook channels at Way Out West Paranormal and Unraveling the Darkness. You can catch all of our episodes of Unraveling the Darkness on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe as it helps others find the show and join in on the paranormal fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time. Keep your lights on, stay safe, and remember, the truth is out there, and it might just be closer than you think.